Welcome back, Noble Heroes. We return back to our Heroes in Yenjasi's Cave, but first we would like to give you our pledge to you. We here at the Homebrew channel reserve the right to be horrible, crass, and crude when the story calls for it, but also to be delightful, sweet, and tug on your heartstrings. And remember, Noble Heroes, do try this at home. We return back to our group, and they're in Yenjasi's Cave. Juniper and Yenjasi are going about their scientific, mystical methods to figure out Fate's degradation process. And Yenjasi, you all were discussing Shadow, and would you like to go ahead and continue your conversation in that direction?
Okay, so Isaac asked, if Hero offered to read her fate, would you let her?
Yeah, I just don't know if I want to know it.
Well, just for my own curiosity, Hero, if you don't mind.
You want me to read her fate?
Yeah, sure, just don't tell me. You can tell him.
Oh, it takes a bit.
Oh, how long?
Like a half hour.
Isaac turns around and he looks at those two. What's he see?
I think we got some time.
You got time.
Okay. Well, like I said, if you don't mind. But if you do, then that's okay. But I think we'll be here for a while.
He's going to kind of come up towards you. Kind of takes it out of me a little bit. And I'm kind of worried about more people coming back right now.
Well, this isn't a time-sensitive issue, so never mind. It's okay. We can wait until we get back on the boat.
He's going to give you a tiny thumbs up.
Okay.
He's going to turn. Hey, Roland, do you think your fate was different in the light because the other? Was that him fighting Ace up there?
Oh, yeah.
What does that feel like?
It's like a dream. It's euphoric in a way. It's very, very simple.
He nods. Jennifer. Yan is going to look down towards you. He says, degradation rate. He is looking at a tiny, ethereal pile of what effectively are flakes of fate that he has scraped off himself. You watch as they slowly seem to disintegrate in his hand. 3826.1, he says.
She makes a
Calculate
note.
that with standard degradation. Try to find the corollary.
Do you want a secondary to compare?
Let's do a third just to make sure we're on the right track.
Probably wise. She offers her arm.
He is going to... Did you want to gain access to the encyclopedias?
Of course.
He's going to wave his hand. On every part of the wall in this room, smooth as possible against the surface of the rounded chamber, there is a cubby cut into the crystal for each book. And the cubbies are individually sized for every single book. So that if you were to stick the book into the hole, there is no space on any of the sides inside of it. About probably 3,000 or 4,000 books surround you in this place. Yenjasi is going to wave his hand, and perhaps 9 or 10 of them are going to move through magical means to set down upon a long table. So there is a big table that is like, it's made out of a crystal shelf off the wall. And then there is a tiny wooden table that is made for your people's size. That is below that. And it would be around his foot area. And you can tell that by the two of them are going to head over in that direction. And Juniper is going to head up towards the smaller of the two tables. And Yenjasi is going to sort of kneel and lay his arms upon the upper table. And then he seems to fetch out a number of larger books that were clearly written by him. And he is going to reach out his hand and sort of hold it there like Thor summoning his hammer. As a pen is going to shoot out and jump into his fingers. He's going to... And you're going to see some kind of heat roil out from his breath and seems to ignite the tip of the pen. He's going to use the charcoal to write. Juniper is sitting with a number of encyclopedias with calculations that you all have discovered over time about fate's processes.
She has a pensive look and she goes, hang on. And she's going to summon out, you've seen her use it before, the giant book. And she pulls it out and puts it to the side as well. It's kind of floating and tipped towards herself. And she flips to a certain page where there's clearly some notes already there.
Is this the giant book we've seen you summon before?
Yes.
Okay.
He says, my guessing is that Bound's degrees will be so minuscule that they likely won't be calculable.
I think we should take a sample from Shadow as well.
I agree, he says. I don't trust myself to use the scalpel on her. Have Roland do it. He is likely strong enough to lift it.
Perhaps we should also do Hero. I'm concerned about the effects on the Meeks.
Why?
Well, fate is so inextricably bound into who they are.
Yeah.
And there are so few ascended among them.
You're going to see in Yanjasi's face, small, tiny variations in his eyes, small movements of his mouth, which look like nothing to any of you. They look like him merely going through thoughts in his mind. But to you, you see differences. He is clearly, at first, a little callous towards the Meek, and then he remembers who you are and who he's working with.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see a little bit of a chastisement, and then an apology in his eyes towards you.
She does a very, very slight nod, acknowledging that.
Juniper, what is the Meek's name?
Might be a hero. We call him Hero.
I remember him, he says. He looks up. Roland, there is a task for you. If you would do it.
What do you need?
That scalpel, he says. We need a sample of Shadow's fate. If you run it upon her skin, not to penetrate, but merely the outer layer of her fate will be scraped away. We need a sample about the size of a... Do you know how large a leathering is?
You're talking about the pearl thing, right?
Yeah. He says, the pearl thing.
Yeah, gotcha. Is it in this room, or is it?
He has set it in his chair, which is
okay.
like you kind of got to leap up to the base of it and then like pull yourself up into it.
Okay.
Yeah, June actually just kind of goes like this.
He stumbled over the pearl thing. He almost stuttered.
He said it, and then as Jazzy said it, he kind of smiled like, I got you to say the dumb thing that I said.
That was the look that you saw on June's face, too.
Which?
Oh, I saw that too because we started.
Wait, there is an easier way to do this. Euphemia Carr, he says. I need Shadow's fate. Shadow's gonna and then she looks over at you.
Euphemia's eyes are wide and she looks over at Shadow.
He says, can we do the calculations in 10 minutes?
Probably.
You want me to take it? She asks.
Borrow?
Yes. He says, no, not borrow, I need it.
Not for good.
It can't be for good.
Clearly, thus borrow.
Why do you soften language all the time?
Because it's not softening when it's correct.
He says,
She is in fact correct.
do you say that?
Mm-hmm.
He looks at you.
See?
No, you are both incorrect, he says. My language was appropriate. You all merely wish to spare the feelings of the dragon. do not care of the feelings of the dragon. I need her fate, he says. Meek! Meek, come here.
She just kind of glares at him for a moment and just shakes her head.
He says, will you deliver it?
Since you asked. Yes. She walks
You
up.
hear a small grumble, and in it you hear it.
I didn't expect you to. She mutters in Draconic at him.
Hero is sort of coming over now towards him. He looks back at Isaac and Roland like, help.
Give him the thumbs up. He got this, buddy.
You give him a thumbs up.
Yeah.
All right. Do you...
She'll approach Shadow.
Being a nervous noise from her.
Hey, maybe you'll find out what it is.
By the way, I forgot to mention, when you had stolen Potjack's consciousness, a gold coin with Potjack's head on it and an X through it was placed in your hand. You lost it after 10 minutes as he took it back.
She'll approach Shadow. It doesn't hurt, I don't think.
She's going to nod, and you clearly see her, like, devote trust into you as she turns to the side.
It does feel a little weird, though. And then she sticks her hand into Shadow.
Shadow is bright, despite her name. You see a fun-loving, snarky, sassy personality. A trickster, almost, a little bit. Somebody who likes to break the rules, but also likes the admiration that she gets from following them. As you reach in, you pull out her fate. It is a simple process. It is a scythe.
As she's
You
pulling...
pull out a tiny kama, a hand scythe from Shadow. It is weird. It is
How
a
does it
bejeweled weapon.
How big is it?
It's almost like a farming tool.
As she's pulling her arm out, she will say to Shadow, "You're beautiful." And then she'll pull the rest of the scythe out.
She's going to kind of like...
Sassiness showing.
She's going to jump away. She doesn't seem to be affected by it, by the loss of it.
Good.
You take it over. Injasi is going to reach down and hold out his hand expectantly.
She'll hand it over with both hands.
Right. As you hand it over, it almost immediately begins to degrade. Injasi is going to point his hand at it and focus upon it. As it does, that light is going to appear around it and seems to contain it for a moment. He's going to place it on the table and quickly dissect it. He takes a small scalpel, even smaller than the one that you previously used, or were going to use. And he's going to dissect it in half and then proceed to look.
June's
Then-
kind of looking on with her pen and paper ready.
He mumbles. The breeding process is slow, he says, but it is affected. Channels are forming in it, slowly breaking it down to the center. The wording will change before it breaks altogether. It fades away, disintegrates into dust, he says.
June's eyes flick over to Hero.
Injasi is going to reach down and just pick Hero up and place him on the table. He is going to, for 1 second, you actually see his hand go to the scalpel, and then he stops, lets it go, and then is going to take his finger and place it on Hero's head and push him to lay flat. And then he scoots him with the edge of his nail to lay sideways. Lay still, he says. He's going to take the upper magnifying glasses and pull them over in front of his face on a channel of tracks on the ceiling. You hear a...
While he's doing that, June will actually pat Hero's shoulder briefly. It'll be all right.
You see his hands tremble slightly as the great magnifying structure is placed in front of Yajasi's face to magnify Hero's large floppy ears. You see his face grow grim when he looks down at Hero. I'm finished, he says. After a second, he pushes that menace away.
She helps Hero up because, poor kid.
It is not good, he says, looking at you. Hero still directly adjacent to him. The meek structures are breaking down far faster than shadows, he says, but it's not their individual fates, it's their race. Wait, what? Hero says. Yajasi's going to look up like he forgot Hero was there. He goes, your race is dying. What? Hero says.
Fate is inextricably linked to the entire existence of the Meeks. If something happens to fate, it will happen to those who are bound to it.
You mean all of us? My whole family? My village? We're all gonna die?
Not necessarily.
His eyes begin to fill with tears.
We're going to try to fix this
What do you mean,
before that
unnecessarily?
happens.
He says.
She gives him a look.
Oh, yes. It is possible that this could not be the case, he says, if it is fixed. He goes, how to do that? He says as he gets up from the chair and begins to stalk around the room, thinking, his head down as he walks on all fours about the chamber. This time he's clearly avoiding you all. He says, we have to calculate the degradation process.
She's going to help Hero off the table that he put him on because it's a little high, I think.
It is, yes. Hero's like trying to hang off the edge.
She's going to catch him with her telekinesis and set him down.
All right. He's kind of like, whoa.
How heavy is he?
50 pounds.
I can do it. He's all right.
Hero, as soon as he lands from the weird effect of the telekinesis, he looks absolutely devastated. He looks like, you think he's crying a little bit, but he sort of rubs his eyes and hides it.
June has her hand on his shoulder for a second, and she looks like she wants to console him, but she knows she doesn't have time.
Could all of us hear all of that exchange?
Yes.
Okay.
How long is your hand on his shoulder?
A moment or two. It's long enough to give it a slight squeeze.
He's gonna... Okay, I'll let you choose. But he's gonna reach up and pat. Does he just pat his own shoulder, or does he pat your hand?
He'll pat her hand.
Okay.
She looks over at... Honestly, she would probably look to Roland. Gives him that look, and then continues over towards Yen.
Roland's gonna walk over. Hey, you wanna go outside for a minute?
He nods. I don't know what I'm gonna do, he says, as you all walk back up the tunnel. Euphemia, what do you do?
Her face would be relatively blank during this process until what was revealed about Hero came to light. She'd probably sidle up to Isaac at this point. Do you understand any of this? She'd ask.
I'm starting to piece it together, but I'm still about as clueless as you are.
What in the pit are they going to ask us to do is what I'm wondering.
Tell your friends that it's going to take a while to do these calculations. Whisperings are frustrating.
I was wondering how long it would take you to say it, honestly. She actually glances and she goes, and does the calculations and says exactly how long we've been in here. She goes, give me a moment.
If you had known it would annoy me, why didn't you take care of it?
Because you're growing. She walks away.
Godmothers.
She has a slight chuckle, then her face sobers quickly. It would probably be best if you all returned to the ship. These calculations are going to take some time. Feel free to... I'm going to give them grounds on the island.
You turn around to see him storing the fate flakes in a drawer. He nods.
You guys may come on ashore, rather, if necessary. Do not let the crew inside the caves.
Noted. You seem really familiar with this place.
Yeah, and I go way back.
How far back?
A while. How about you will give us some time to finish these calculations, and I'll let you know as soon as I can. She looks at all of you.
Juniper, what is Algeron's ride again?
Say it again.
He asks about a very complicated math equation.
She goes,
Oh, that's our cue, she says, and starts walking out.
she nods and starts listing off some sort of, it sounds like arcane gibberish, with numbers involved as well.
Juniper, I know you all are busy, but while you're in here, could you figure something out for me? Could you figure out why Injasi knew me by name? I'm no celebrity like Roland, and he also said that my fate was one he would never forget.
She glances down at your chest. She goes, I imagine it has something to do with that.
I guess so. Just curious as to what significance it has to him.
She just nods. It's more like she's obviously trying to get you to go.
Okay, he's still walking.
It is no secret, son of Crowley, that I remember you. I gave you your fate. He says from across the room, way farther than you would have thought, that he could hear you.
Okay, that's unnerving. Yeah, Isaac's leaving.
She does give you a vaguely apologetic look as she shoos you away.
Okay.
You guys hear vaguely in the distance, are my abilities so unknown in this day?
You never leave the damn island.
I thought you were championing what I knew.
I have a life too, you know.
A life sheltered and ensconced in an enclave.
Oh, go to hell.
Don't you write?
Oh, to the pits. Go to the pits.
How many books have you written? He says.
More than you.
So can't you put some information about me in one?
Do you really want me to write a book about you, Yen?
I think you're the only one who'd give me a fair shake.
That's fair, considering the other ones who've asked me to.
Who else has asked you to write a book? You hear? The noise fades into the distance as you all head up. Are you consoling, Hero?
I've got an idea of something we can do outside.
Okay. Alright, you're headed out then. What is that idea?
I'm gonna see if he wants to run drills that he used to run when I was a kid. Essentially suicides.
Okay. Yeah. Hero rolls a strength check to keep up. Oh my god. You rolled a 23.
Damn!
He's killing it.
He is determined.
He has a determined look on his face now.
Trauma will do that to you, man.
He's ready to fight.
As he panting there next to you, you're just kind of, you're fine. He goes, We've got to do this, he says, seeming to psych himself up. My whole family, my entire race. We've got to save them, he says, looking over at you.
We'll do everything I can, man.
Hey,
This isn't over.
I'm really glad you're here. I wouldn't be next to anybody else but the greatest hero in the world. You shake your head like that?
Yeah.
Hey, I wasn't talking about the other. What do you guys talk about as you head up out of the cave?
She's probably going to say, so, seems the godmother doesn't tell us much, does she?
That's an understatement.
Baylor's tall, lanky bones are walking behind you silently.
Do you have to have that thing with you everywhere you go? She says, looking back at him.
No, if it would make you feel better, I can have him be unknown.
You mean hide him from me?
Yes.
No.
That makes it worse.
Or if you really need, I can do this, and Isaac will de-animate him, and he kind of collapses into a pile of bones, and Isaac will just kind of like pick him up and carry him.
It suits you, she says.
What do you mean by that?
You carrying a pile of bones?
No. I won't disagree with that. I was talking to Hero, and he said that I was scary.
I can't imagine where he got that from, she says.
But even after being with you guys for almost 2 weeks, has that gotten any better?
You being less scary?
Yeah.
Well, I never found you scary, just irritating.
Well, I guess that's a point for me. Is there anything I could do to be less off-putting to others, I guess?
She's gonna stop right in her tracks and look up at him. Are you asking social skills advice?
He turns and he drops a bone and he picks it back up and puts it on the pile and he's like, yes.
Oh, by the pit.
You're very charming towards everybody and everyone likes you and I want to know how you do it.
Not everybody, she says, casting a glance back at the cave. I think having fewer corpses in your vicinity may help, she says.
I see.
And perhaps, sitting down and having a drink with someone has always helped for me.
Does Hero drink? Have I seen him drink?
Didn't he drink during the time around the camp stove?
He did.
Okay. Well, if this is scary, then what do you think of the homunculus?
So the homunculus looks like a tiny little devil baby with a little tail and bat wings.
She'd say...
Is that better or worse?
She'd say, I think it's worse.
Okay. That's not very reassuring.
However, clearly whatever you're doing is working to some extent with Hero. He is talking to you.
But I don't know if that means I'm getting better or if he's just very, very brave. I'm afraid that if we run into any other meek, they're just going to run for the hills as soon as
They
see
will.
me.
She breaks in.
Oh, that's not good. I either need to get better about this or I need to find a way to hide these things because I can't travel without them.
Well, how have you traveled so far? You don't seem... Well, maybe you have been run out of places. I don't know.
That's a story for another time.
Oh, she says. Well, if we sit down for that drink with Hero, I'd like to hear it.
Okay. Maybe that'll make me more relatable to him. If I tell him about some of my shortcomings.
Sure. Yeah. Key for you. Key for you.
Oh, thank you.
She'll wait a beat. Why do you want to get better at this? Fear can be every bit as motivating than getting people to do what you want.
It can. I know that for sure. And it certainly helped me back there in that cave. But it's not going to work forever, especially if I'm going to become a hero like you all.
Master! Oh, thank the heavens you're okay! Prongor says as he runs towards you as you exit the tunnel.
See, now everyone speaks to Roland like that. I just have Prongor.
He's going to come up and wrap his arms lovingly about your waist.
She'll watch, kind of disturbed. I don't know if they all do it quite like that.
No, I do not. But the sentiment is there.
Jumper, you've done the calculations now. Both
She
of you
will
look
do them
down.
twice. She pauses. Let me run them again.
You know they're right. You did them.
I've made mistakes occasionally.
Stop. There is no room for doubt now. 2.5 years, he says. That is how long existence has left.
Unless
Fate.
something can change.
If fate cried out to you, you must assume that it was its last call. A dire warning. I believe that fate still holds some power. Certainly not the assurances that it might once have. But it does make the 5 of you more capable to solve this problem than any others.
She has a look that she clearly wants to argue with him.
Don't. You know it to be true.
My track record's not great for this yet.
But it's long.
Not necessarily always a good thing.
I'll take a marathon runner over a sprinter here.
I'm not a hero.
You were.
Not anymore.
You were the greatest hero.
They were, not me.
I remember a young girl, one who would not accept the way things were, who brought the dragons together when they only wanted to kill each other, who defeated Satan. You stood on the walls of Garen and advised its first kings, he says. You built the world power from the ground up.
Yeah, before I was basically crippled.
You've healed enough. It's time to come out of hiding, Juniper.
Clearly this is the time if any other were.
You cannot deny fate's call regardless of your wishes.
I know that. I of all people know that.
And stop sulking.
I'm not sulking.
Fate did not call me, he says.
Out of curiosity, do I know if it ever has?
Has fate called you Njasi?
Yeah.
To the one thing it always calls me, Jim.
Okay, outside of that.
You wouldn't know.
Well, I mean, if he never told her. I'm curious.
It calls him to lead the other world dragons and tell them what to do.
Mm-hmm.
If the barriers between the world dragons begin to split, we will revolt back into the Dragon Wars.
Yes.
Except this time there is much more at stake. A lot more in the way.
A lot more will die in the fallout.
The faster you retrieve my crown, the better. But I cannot guarantee that even with my crown I can fix this problem. The source, what broke it in the first place.
Must be found, I know.
Only with that knowledge can we think to fix it. Mirban. Mirban may have had answers come to him.
In his book?
Usually, if fate has a powerful prophecy, Mirban knows something of it.
Ugh, and the true challenge is getting him to bloody well show it.
You'll need to go there, he says.
Mirban hates me.
Mirban hates everyone. He is the worst, most curmudgeonly, awful wizard that I've ever met in my life.
Yeah, that's saying something.
It is. But he is also the smartest. I do not consider you a wizard, despite that you tell me magic. You are a godmother. You've proved that enough.
Took you long enough to see it.
Do you think the others will balk when you tell them?
I think that the time frame will open things up a little bit.
You best not spare them as you always do.
I don't spare them. Telling people in a way that makes them actually want to help is useful. Instead of simply rubbing them all the wrong way and giving them no hope whatsoever.
I like people to know their chances.
Hope adds to the chances.
You know better than I.
That's fair.
As if, he says.
There's still some things I know more than you. She
You
gives
see
a smirk.
him, you look back towards him with a small smirk on your face, and you see him staring hard at you. Are you truly ready for this?
Is anyone ever really ready?
You were injured. You see concern.
The scars have not healed entirely, but they are improving. Slowly.
What is your resolve?
I've always wanted to save this world. That has never changed.
You mean save it again?
How many times am I going to be called for it?
I don't know.
Hopefully this will be the last.
Perhaps if you would die, you can get along without doing it.
Oh, what's the fun in that? I have to go tell them.
I missed this.
We'll have to keep it up then, shan't we?
So you must succeed.
I will. When have I ever really failed? Don't answer that question.
You see him look thoughtful. Jennifer comes out of the cave.
How long has it been?
About 45 minutes. You returned to the crew. Beyond Prongor's excitement, everybody is currently getting bandaged up if they need it from the fight. Hero had some fiery wounds. He was injured by rocks. So setting his arm after he does wind sprints. Roland is basically uninjured.
You was still a little.
Cleby was very excited to see Femia, although Johnny is still a little nervous with that lanyard on the cannon. Do you all tell him about the Ascended that you did battle with? Yeah. You light the fuse and then you pull the lanyard to fire.
I didn't know that was called that.
I think it is. I kind of looked up all the canon stuff before we began this game.
I'm just picturing the lanyard that goes around your neck. That's why. Anyway.
It's just like your
whatever
whip
it's
lanyard.
called. The pulley.
It's the same thing. Just pull on it.
Anyway.
Did you all tell them about the Ascended and what happened in the cave?
Yes. Yuffie would have told her crew that they were engaged in battle with several Ascended, and that everyone seems to have walked away relatively unharmed.
Do you tell them what Ascended?
No. Not yet.
What Ascended? Molly asks. She sees the look on your face when she asks it. She goes, you know what? We'll talk later.
She nods at her. Later. It's a promise.
Yes.
There is one thing that June definitely would have talked to Yin about.
Yeah.
If I have to, I'll turn around and go back in before it happens.
Okay.
She goes, the alien.
We must assume that its fate has weakened in some manner.
The question is it continuous or was it a spike?
You have been awake for the last 12 days. You should know the news, he says. Have there been any messenger alerts of jailbreaks from the Ilium?
I didn't know it had happened until I saw Ace.
Then either it just happened, or it was a spike. Dambleth is more capable than most.
Curse your sanction on the messengers here.
He says, it has kept me from 10 million letters over time. I am most thankful for it. Everyone wants to know questions. If they want to know them badly enough to come, I will answer.
Contact Anna and have her send it.
He says, the meek have less time than this.
How long? Oh, actually,
Cut off half a year.
okay. I would assume that would have been in the calculations we did.
What was
Their
the
fates will begin to fade within the year, though. And if they are fixed, if fate's channel is fixed, they may never return. They are too inextricably tied to fate.
Are there any other creatures or races that would be the same?
None so weak.
Alright. I'll tell them. Okay. Now I come out. Sorry, that was important.
No, one more thing.
Oh, don't mind. I don't.
So, unfortunately, we're going to go ahead and take a break here for a moment, you guys, because I am going to showcase the party the map to allow Yanjasi to give them some directions toward the 4 additional shards of his crown. But since, actually, you know what? I'll turn the phone around. We'll show you the map. Although it's not complete yet, so it's got some labels on it here. This is the map of Mythia, guys. This is some post-it notes that we have from showing the location of old cities. So Garen is right here. This is Alirna, the city of heaven that they traveled down to. Farmwatch is a enemy nation that is right there. Aragoth, the bad guy kingdom, is right here. Bridgewalk is here. And Selenox, Isaac's home, is right there. And the characters are right here in the center, the Crystal Forest, and traveled here through Ignis's arm. So, Yanjasi reveals the direction of the crown shards. One down towards Aragoth, right there. One through this part of the world. Another one a little bit up to the east there. And the last one straight up north. So they're all kind of on this side of the world. All right.
Those are the only 4 you can sense right now?
Well, he has the 5th one.
Oh, so that it only shattered into 5 pieces as far as he's aware?
Yes, correct. 5 pieces.
Just making sure.
See, I was having horrible visions of...
Shattering into...
Like,
dozens.
hundreds, and I'm just like, Okay, June exits the cave.
All right. Yes.
I had a question.
Yeah.
When Euphemia pulled out Shadow's fate, could she feel anything from it? Like, what it was?
Felt dangerous.
Like, sharp?
Lethal.
Lethal?
You felt that maybe once before in your life? A pirate who is fated to kill somebody.
Interesting.
Okay.
June has a serious and kind of pensive expression on her face as she approaches the ship. You can see as she's walking, she seems to be casting something, and what were clearly ink stains all over her hands are just coming off.
Wow, Captain. So you beat Potjack again, Jania says, with a little bit of starstruck worship in her eyes.
Somebody needs to write a song about that. Just saying. Just saying.
The others weren't worth mentioning at the moment, but when they went into... They apparently heard footsteps loudly crashing in the tunnel, and Jania wouldn't stop guessing which ascended that came down. Juniper comes out of the tunnel. Cleby from up is actually going to stand up on a box and like wave his arms towards Juniper as if you couldn't see the boat. He goes, "Hey, Juniper!" in Euphemia's voice.
I don't think I've ever heard her say my name in that happy of a tone. I wonder when he said she did that.
May have been her yelling.
Yeah, she is just going to walk towards the ship.
I guess we're about to find out the rest of it, she says to Bali. I have a feeling it's not good.
What mood have you struck as far as telling what happened? Like, were you like, we beat some Ascended, and then when the dragon was confusing, or were you like, it didn't sound good?
She probably would have said that they beat a bunch of Ascended, there's something strange going on with the dragon, and she didn't understand anything about what was going on past that, so she'd be waiting for Juniper to come back.
Isaac, how about you? Are you also going along with that ruse?
I don't say anything to the crew, but I do talk with Brongor in private, and I tell him with much glee that I had a run-in with Zio and whooped his ass.
Ha ha, master!
And as I'm telling him this, Isaac's sitting back and he's looking very self-satisfied and he's like flicking a coin up and down. And
Wait, Master. If Zio was involved, then Satan's hand was involved.
it was the whole gang. Dambleth, Zio, Ace was there. Thankfully not chasing after me.
And yet you are unharmed, Master.
Indeed. We've grown stronger since then.
He says, they were no match for you.
We sent them running for the hills.
How were the other ones? Did they commit something to the battle?
Oh yes, they all contributed.
It's good to know that they're not completely useless, Master.
But I am glad I did not bring you with me. We all would have had our hands tied trying to keep you protected. It was quite dangerous.
Oh, well, especially since my arm was torn up in that explosion, he says. Whenever we get a chance, Master, I would like to do some reconstruction.
Which explosion is he talking about?
From the barrel blew backwards.
Got it, okay. Yeah.
It's his middle finger isn't closing anymore.
When the crew settles down, we'll do that later.
He goes, what shall I, what should I pretend happened down there, Master, since the halfling Euphemia said that some ascended had fought against you?
Well, as far as the rest of the crew knows, you know what they know, so don't let them know that you know more.
What
And then Isaac's kind of annoyed that he's starting to talk like Brongor does, when Brongor's like logicking through something. And he's like, anyway, let's join the rest of the crew. Let's not look conspicuous down here hiding in our dormitory.
Yes, he says. We will be the least conspicuous pair there is.
Okay, we'll go back up to the top of the ship.
Prongor and Isaac come sneaking conspicuously out of the basement. June. Hero is going to be trying to, like, mess with a teapot that he brought along. I don't get how Juniper just does this, he says as he fumbles with it. You can clearly tell he's agitated. He keeps, like, messing with it and not letting it boil. He clearly is just problem. He has problems with what's going on.
I'm sorry. It's horrible.
I know.
Okay. Anyway, where was I? Yes, serious mode. Okay.
Jennifer, you come out of the gate.
Okay.
And you have approached the boat. Dom is going to lay down the gangplank for you when you step up.
She just nods and gives him a very small smile.
So, Dom says,
All right.
what happened?
And how long will we be here? She says.
That's what we need to discuss.
She doesn't look pleased.
Neither's Jim.
Shadow is going to exit forth from the water where she has like lightly caught a fish, and then she like looks up like with the fish still wiggling in her mouth, and then like tosses it quickly back into the river.
June has a moment of a nice break in her mood as she watches that. And she
Queenie
goes,
comes up and pulls on you. What happened? He says in Dom's voice.
just a moment. She looks around to make sure everybody is here. Everybody present and close enough?
Yes.
From what we've learned, something has broken fate. It's not... Think of it like a stick. It's not broken apart yet, but it is bent and broken. The longer it is apart, the worse it will become.
You see the looks on the crew fall immediately. Dire concern written on their faces.
And what's to be done of it?
We need to find the pieces of Yen's crown. The 5 of us are still called to do so. You see a very tight look across her eyes and around her mouth. Like she's clearly not pleased with this.
What happens if we don't find the pieces? If they're just left?
If we don't find the pieces, and fate continues in the route that it is in, the world will end. Everyone will die. The world will fall apart. Fate governs the very existence of our planet. It governs the existence of its peoples. She looks at Hero.
When you say the world is going to end, do you mean like it's going to light on fire? Johnny asks.
I don't know. Fate is the reason that the sun and moon act as they do. It's the reason that Sumsal takes the sun across the sky. It's the reason that Arcantus's moon hangs where it does. It's the reason why certain lakes run the way they do, why the water is the way it is, why animals behave the way they do.
Why I fix boats, Triss says quietly.
Yes. And it is slowly going to be ripped asunder. Not to mix a bunch of metaphors, but the seams are coming undone.
You hear a choking noise from Hero. Bali is going to look over you with a, "Is this true?" look in her eyes.
Yes, she says aloud. I think so.
I need reactions. Right.
Oh.
Roland, what do you look like?
He knew this wasn't over. He knew from the moment before we walked into this cave, he knew she wanted this over with as fast as possible. He knows that this isn't going to be easy.
What is your expression?
Pretty much the face I'm wearing right now. Just
grave concern.
Mm-hmm.
Isaac.
I'm thinking. Sorry.
Let's go on. Euphemia.
She's going to be staring very intently at Juniper, and then she's going to cast her gaze about and study the eyes of all of her crew.
You will see June is looking at Hero the most, and she has an extremely troubled look on her face.
What does she see on the crew's faces?
Triss looks sick. Johnny looks confused. Cleeby looks like he's trying to understand exactly what everybody's so upset about. Dom has a little twig, and he's kind of like, he seems to almost be like vaguely writing in the fire. His eyes, his eyebrows that are thick are furrowed deeply. He has grave worry lines on his forehead. Bali is looking around almost with an expression of disbelief. She looks over towards you. She sort of is shaking her head, like, this can't be it.
She's going to walk to Bali and put her hand on her shoulder. And then she's going to step forward. I know this isn't what any of you signed up for, she said, looking at all the crew. Or what I signed up for.
Yeah. Cleeby says.
Great prophecies or fate-deemed missions sanctioned by dragons and kings and fought with heroes, she says, looking around.
You see all of them lift their eyes towards their captain.
We all have a choice. We could sail off at light tomorrow as fast as the winds take us. Go about our mission from before. Do a damned good job at it. And when we were drinking our victory on the Isle of Bones, the rest of the world would be falling apart, burning. But we could do that. She pulls her compass out and flicks it open.
Where is it pointing?
It's pointing towards the Isle of Bones. We could let all of our dreams slowly burn. She looks up at Bali, even those we carry for others, and flips it closed. Or we could charge down this quest. We could lead it into success. We could take on a quest that would be sung about or told in stories, she says, looking at Dom. We could do something that no pirate has ever done, she says, looking at Bali. We could fight enemies who have yet to taste the strength of our steel, looking at Jania. We'll probably see things and be challenged in ways that we never have before, looking at Clebe. But we'll do it. And we'll do it on the damned best boat that has ever been sailed by a pirate crew, she says at Triss.
Oh. You hear Dom. He seems to grow in determination as you speak.
If we're going to do this, we're going to go all in. And we'll show them what our resolve can do. Who's with me?
Aye, Dom says. He's going to stand up and he grabs his harpoon off the... He says, I've still got a tuna whale to nail.
Well, she says, looking at the rest of the crew.
Aye! You hear the exact same noise come from Clebe. He's going to climb up on Dom and sort of raise his fist up. You hear, you have to fly, Clebe. You have to fly. You recognize Ronan's voice. Your king.
She looks to Jania. Are you in for this?
Was it ever a question? She says. As you look over, Triss seems still wallowing. She just kind of vaguely nods. I don't have a choice, she says.
We all have a choice, she says. We have a choice to fight.
I'm no good to you, Captain, if I can't fix a ship.
She walks towards her and puts her arm on her shoulder. I think you underestimate yourself. Then we won't let it go anywhere, will we?
Bali looks up at you. She looks at the rest of the crew. Her mouth trembles slightly. She stands.
Euphemia looks relieved. Good. Then let's come up with a plan.
Shadow is going to curl around Roland. Excuse me. She puts her wing on your back. She says. She's going to knock your chin out with the bottom of her snout. She whips Hero on the edge of the shoulder.
He just smiles at her.
She looks at you. You gain a sense she's ready.
June has an extremely bittersweet, kind of melancholy expression on her face while you were speaking, and it got more so as you spoke. Her eyes look deathless. They look ancient. They look so separate from her extremely youthful appearance. Like, it looks like somebody whose time is looking out from her face right now as she looks at you.
She'll walk over to Juniper. You do have a plan, right?
Perhaps you'd like to know the rest of the facts before we continue. But I applaud your eagerness and your willingness to do this.
I need a reaction from one more group. Since you are inconspicuously in the corner.
Isaac looks concerned, but not as much as the rest. He managed to piece a lot of this together during the time he was lurking in the cave, watching them. And he's kind of been processing it since then, and all the way until now.
Master, Prongor says, staring at the gathering that seems to have coalesced without you.
Yes?
Master, I think the fate might have been real.
Indeed. I dare
I
not...
should go in and ask the dragon to make sure.
Do it. Try what happens. It'll be great.
No, Prongor, I do not think you should. But I will say that I dare not defy a prophecy, but the prophecy did not include your name. Given the danger of this, I wouldn't blame you if you decided to stay behind.
Oh, Master. For being so smart, you often are quite dumb. He smiles very sweetly at you. He says, I would walk into the pit itself, dear Master. This is a fine road.
It makes me happy to hear nothing has changed in the past 2 weeks. A lot has changed, but apparently you have not.
Consistency, Master. That is the true mark of a man of service. He says, and you gave me the ability to be consistent by keeping me with 2 arms.
I suppose I did. Well, if you're feeling committed then, I think I'm going to tell the group that we'll come with them.
Master, if the prophecy is true, then we really are supposed to be here. Maybe we should try to talk to them. See what...
I agree. I've been striking up some conversations since we came here. They're not quite so open to it, but I think they'll warm up to us. I did receive one piece of advice, and that's to make failure a little less prevalent. Apparently people aren't comfortable having a corpse walking around all the time. Do they bother you, Prongor?
No, Master.
Not
My
even...
grandma was kept in my house in a coffin for many years.
Of course she was. Why not?
Would Isaac know, like, sociology-wise, like, why that would be? Could they not afford to bury her, so they just keep her
So
there?
Selenok's land is swampy. It
Okay.
has
Like-
a lot of undeath
like
to it because the
Louisiana.
land is faded.
I think they'd
So
be up for
often they-
cremation.
What they'll do is they'll build a little cage inside their house and they'll lay a body in the cage in a coffin and let it rot there. And then when it's fully rotted, toss it in the sea.
Okay.
That's what the poor do.
Why don't they just burn them?
Because that's disrespectful. It's water, not fire, that takes care of the body in someone else.
So, as a side note, we just went to New Orleans, and they do above ground entombment because of the water table,
Yep.
and the things naturally cremate the bodies without flame, and then when it's done, they just put a new body in the same
Oh,
tomb,
that's
like
neat.
it.
It's
Yeah.
super weird though and creepy
So
at the same time.
It was.
I think that's awesome.
We walked around one of the graveyards, and it was super cool.
But there's like a lot of people's stuff all
You're
in those.
dead. What's it matter?
Anyways, that was just a fun little
it's not like
tidbit.
you're there to feel it.
Are you sure?
Well, let's not get into metaphysical arguments about
Say.
what we believe in the afterlife. That'll
Just
take a
say.
while.
Isaac always wondered why he was always so okay with dead bodies, and now he knows. He never put that together.
Okay.
Isaac and Prongor are going to meaningfully step forward. Does Isaac say anything?
Ready to go, Captain?
She looks at him. She's got a slightly friendlier look on her face since they spoke.
He's attempting rather poorly to wear a slightly less sour expression on his face.
Jennifer.
What do you say?
Oh, yeah. Does Ron say anything?
I mean, if anybody looked at him, did you look at
Yeah, her gaze has shifted to the entire group.
I'm here until you told me to go home.
I'd expect nothing less from Dragon.
Well, we need to hear the rest, and I think it'd be best done over drinks. She goes to get drinks for people.
She looks like she's not entirely certain that's a great idea, but she's not going to argue you.
She at least gets them for the crew.
That's fair.
She
What
looks at you.
else do you reveal?
June is going to tell the timeline first, but she says, we have 2 years.
A year in Mythia is 400 days.
I just wanted to make sure. It was 2 years before the meek were decimated, correct?
Yep.
Yes. She's
So
not
you're-
even going to say the other
You're
half.
telling us 2 years.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes. We have 2 years before irrevocable changes happen.
800 days.
The people who are less strongly inured to fate, those who are not ascended, will be affected first. Those who are...
What does that mean? Johnny says. What does having your fate affected mean? She crosses her arms in a very un-Johnny-like expression.
It means that the wording of your fate may change. It will slowly begin to degrade until it is gone.
Like you could lose a word?
Or it could change.
Triss is just shaking her head.
You don't
Couldn't
know.
losing a word make you more powerful? Dawn says.
Possibly. I don't know how it will change. I can't predict that. The math doesn't work. It's too far out.
You're going to see Bali kind of touch one of the scars on her face.
You don't know if it'll come back the way it was.
The metaphor that Yen and I have always used together is that fate is a little like a river.
Only flowing one way?
Yes. But fate, the river of fate, has been so set in its path. It's been here since the dragons and the angels arrived, since they cleared the mists. The channel is very deep, but as Yen has described, it's as though something has blocked the mouth.
I heard him say something about
It's overflowing, and the inlets are branching out. They'll start to form new paths.
So it was spilling over.
Yes, and eventually it may go dry.
So you don't know if when we fix it, it'll go back the way it's supposed to be.
The thing is, it's not necessarily just us fixing it. That's the problem. We also need to figure out what caused it. We need to find out who or what made this happen, because without that information, we can't fix it or stop them from doing it again.
Do you describe what was likely required to break it in the first place?
Yes.
Okay, so Juniper describes an immense amount of energy would be required. Equivalent to effectively all the magic in Mythia put into one single spell.
June tastes the tea that Hero made and makes a face, and quickly begins making her own pop.
Together, you and Yen have discussed the likely possibilities for culprits. So it would either require someone about like a very long time of planning and somebody about the power level of Satan, or a giant organizational effort based on high, maybe hundreds of magic users at once, all with deeply inlaid plans for how to go about the process. But something like this has never been done knowingly in all of history.
And she will share that information and her speculations about it.
Would Satan's hand even have the power to do this?
We don't know is the problem. I've been attempting to study Satan's hand for a very long time, and they are a very elusive organization. Especially with Danbluth as its leader. Satan himself is another possibility. Although I doubt they had anything in conjunction with his would-be followers. She's obviously a little not dismissive, but what's the word I'm looking for?
Disdainful.
That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you, word person.
I'm word person tonight.
Before we continue, we're going to go ahead and take a break here momentarily, good heroes. We really thank you for joining us. Please, if you like this, hit us up with a like and a subscribe. A like and a subscribe, please. It really helps the channel out. And remember, do try this at home. Thank you, guys.